Between a warrior and a butcher, a warrior knows when to stop watching and start interfering. My name is Terran from
SAS report forward.
Commander
Shields at
First
full.
Cath
And
Expeditionary
Kank Sif
Fleet.
claw forward to raise.
68
Prepare for
years
evasive
old,
maneuvers.
Which for my species
Engage!
means I'm somewhere between experienced and stubborn enough to ignore good advice. I've commanded the closing jaw formation for 40 years. 40 years without a single retreat, without a single mission failure. Earth was
Fleet,
supposed to
report
be number
stat
18.
status.
I'm
Initiate
writing this
formation
from the
Delta.
bridge of my
Engage.
flagship,
Monitor
the
all
Vector.
sectors.
Outside the viewport, 47 Cath warships hang in formation against the black. The closing jaw. We call it that because once we position around a target, the jaw closes. Inevitably, mathematically. We've used this formation in every major engagement for 200 years. It has never failed. Earth wasn't supposed to be different. The mission brief was simple: test our new plasma torpedo system on a defensive target. Earth qualified on every metric. Young species, only 60 years in space. No significant military capability. Recent assembly member with minimal political protection. And critically, they'd just been denied military aid after sending a distress beacon. Denied. 3 lines. That's all the Galactic Assembly sent them. I saw the message myself. Request reviewed and denied. No intervention resources available. VTH corridor conflict has exhausted deployable assets. Translation. You're not worth saving. I picked Earth because they were irrelevant. Past tense. Because in the 40 days that followed, they taught me something that 200 years of warfare never had. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started to go wrong on day 0. We dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of their solar system textbook positioning. 47 ships in perfect geometric formation. The kind of arrival that's supposed to communicate one thing: resistance is futile, surrender is logical. Your survival depends on our mercy. I sent a diplomatic shuttle. Standard protocol. We always offer terms before engagement. The Cath aren't monsters, we're professionals. There's a difference. The shuttle's mission was simple: deliver warning beacon, establish communication, provide 24 hours for response. That's it. Clean, simple, by the book. My second-in-command, Vren Koltar, volunteered to lead it. First mistake. 8 hours later, I watched the tactical display as Vren's shuttle intercepted an Earth vessel near their moon. Small craft, unarmed, diplomatic transponder active. I watched Vren's shuttle fire. I watched the Earth vessel disintegrate in a bloom of superheated gas and debris. No warning, no communication. Just 8 seconds of what the Cath call decisive action, and what every other species in the galaxy calls murder. Vren returned to the Vector 3 hours later. Walked onto my bridge with the kind of expression that people wear when they think they've done something commendable. Mission accomplished, Commander. The humans ignored our warning beacon. I eliminated the scout vessel as protocol demands. I pulled up the communication logs. Read them twice to make sure I wasn't seeing things. You transmitted the warning on Cath frequency, I said. Correct. Cath frequency, which operates at a wavelength range that human receivers can't detect. Vren blinked, once. They should have upgraded their communications to galactic standard if they wished to participate in. Get off my bridge. He left. I sat in my command chair and did something I rarely do. I reconsidered my entire operational plan. Vren had just turned a weapons test into a genocide scenario. The Earth vessel he destroyed was probably trying to establish first contact. Maybe carrying diplomats. Maybe scientists. Maybe just some poor pilot who thought today would be routine. Now they were atoms drifting near their own moon. The Cath have rules about this, ancient rules. We don't kill without cause. We don't destroy without purpose. War is a tool, not a tantrum. What Vren did was a tantrum. I opened a secure channel to the mission planners back home. Explained the situation. Requested permission to delay the engagement timeline from 3 weeks to 11 weeks. The response came back in 40 minutes. Permission granted. Conduct full reconnaissance. Delay authorized for complete tactical assessment. That's what I told my crew. The truth, I delayed because I wanted to see if Earth would surprise me. No species had surprised me in 40 years. Day 7, the first probe I sent toward their salvage facility was supposed to be a simple reconnaissance sweep. Long-range sensors, passive observation, basic threat assessment. It lasted 18 seconds. 18 seconds from deployment to complete destruction. I watched it happen on the tactical display. The probe, a Cath design built to survive proximity to stellar coronas, just ceased to exist. One moment it was transmitting data, the next nothing, not even debris. Whatever hit it had vaporized it so completely that the energy signature looked like a miniature star going supernova. My weapons officer pulled up the analysis. Commander, that signature, it's not a military weapon. What is it? It's a mining laser, industrial equipment. But the precisions, he looked up at me. His skin had shifted to the pale blue that Cath display when confused. Sir, the targeting precision is 8 times human standard, and the power output has been modified to operate at 300% of rated capacity. I leaned back in my chair. They'd weaponized industrial equipment in 7 days, while simultaneously trying to build a defense fleet, while dealing with the fact that we'd just murdered their diplomats. Vren, standing at his station after I'd reluctantly allowed him back on the bridge, snorted. Scrap collectors with mining lasers. This is what concerns you. What concerns me, I said quietly, is that they're not panicking, they're adapting. I ordered 3 more probes sent, standard dispersal pattern, different approach vectors. All 3 destroyed, average survival time 22 seconds. Vren called for immediate assault. Half my officers agreed with him. The mathematics were simple. We had 47 warships. They had mining lasers and desperation. I gave a different order. Retrieve the probe wreckage. Sir, I said retrieve it. I want our science team to analyze that weapon modification. The retrieval officer looked confused. Commander, with respect, why? It's industrial equipment. There's nothing to... I said slowly, to know exactly how they modified civilian tools into precision weapons in less than a week. Retrieve the wreckage. He left to execute the order. I canceled it 10 minutes later, not because I didn't want the analysis, because I didn't want my science team telling Vren that the humans were more dangerous than they looked. I wanted Vren overconfident. I wanted him thinking in terms of scrap collectors and mining lasers, because I was starting to think in very different terms. The intelligence reports came in over the next week. Earth's salvage operation wasn't new. They'd been collecting wreckage for 40 years, pulling derelict ships from designated salvage corridors that nobody else wanted to bother with. The Galactic Assembly had logged it all in their registry: Serenthi carrier hulls, Dren battleship components, Cath armor plating from ships that had torn themselves apart during jump miscalculations. All of it classified as beyond economical repair. All of it abandoned, until Earth started collecting it. I pulled up the registry myself, scrolled through page after page of wreckage. Most of it was listed with damage assessments in the 70 to 90% range, the kind of destruction that makes salvage cost more than building new. For every other species in the galaxy, these assessments were final, absolute. If something cost more to fix than to replace, you replaced it. Humans apparently had different mathematics. They're collectors, not in the commercial sense. It's deeper than that. They see broken things and they see what the things used to be, before they broke. And they can't walk past wreckage without wondering if it can be made to work again. Optimistic about potential. 17 civilizations I'd destroyed. Every single one had followed the same pattern and assessed capabilities compared to our own, calculate odds, surrender, or fight based on mathematics. None of them had ever looked at garbage and seen potential. Day 14. The encrypted message came through on a channel I hadn't used in 30 years. Old friend. Old enough that we'd stopped needing to lie to each other. Commander Theron, I've been planning this for 47 years. I needed a Cath fleet. Specifically, I needed your fleet. Trell Varys, Serenthi coordinator, one of the most powerful bureaucrats in the Galactic Assembly. I locked my quarters and played the message 3 times. I know what you're thinking, Trell's message continued. His voice had that particular quality of stillness that very intelligent people develop when they're telling you something true. You're thinking this is random. A weapons test that went wrong. It's not. I engineered this scenario. I chose Earth. I chose the VT-H corridor conflict that prevented assembly intervention. I chose the timing. I paused the message, poured myself a drink, resumed playback. I chose you, Krall, because you're the only Cath commander who's questioned an order in the past 200 years. I read your dissent reports from the Vorath campaign. You argued that destroying the Vorath manufacturing facilities would destabilize the sector's economic balance. You were overruled. You were also correct. I need someone who thinks beyond the immediate mission. Someone who won't just conquer Earth, someone who'll watch what they do when they're desperate. And yes, before you ask, I'm gambling 8 billion human lives on your curiosity, on your conscience. Because I've spent 140 years as a Galactic Assembly coordinator, and I've learned that the galaxy doesn't need more warriors. It needs more people who know when not to fight. The message ended. I sat in the dark for a long time. Then I did something that would have gotten me court-martialed if anyone found out. I accessed our tactical schedule, found Vren's plan for the next phase: send a small team to sabotage the Titan facility, specifically to eliminate their chief engineer, a woman named Nadia Cortez. Without her, Vren calculated their entire salvage operation would collapse. He was probably right. I accidentally transmitted our patrol schedule on a human-compatible frequency, made it look like a navigation error, the kind of mistake that happens when you're managing 47 ships in formation. 12 hours later, I watched the thermal signature of Nadia Cortez relocate from an exposed workshop to a reinforced command center in Titan's core. The assassination team Vren sent found an empty room. Vren blamed it on human luck. I blamed it on my conscience, which apparently Trelveris knew better than I did. Day 21. My daughter arrived. Vesh Theron, 34 years old, intelligence officer. Best scout pilot in the fleet, which I'm allowed to say because it's objectively true, and also because she's my daughter and I'm proud of her. I'd sent her 3 days earlier in the Ralketh, our fastest stealth reconnaissance vessel. Mission: close approach to Titan facility, get detailed scans, return without engagement. She returned. I met her in the hangar bay. She walked off the Ralketh with the expression of someone who'd seen something they couldn't quite process. "Father," she said, "we need to talk. Privately." We went to my quarters. I poured 2 drinks. She downed hers in one motion. "Show me," I said. She pulled up the scan data on my tactical display. 11 ships, framed outside Titan facility in various stages of construction. That part wasn't surprising. We'd known they were building something. What was surprising, the composition. This one, Vesh said, highlighting a partially constructed hull. Serenthi carrier drive core. But the outer plating is Cath, from the destroyer we lost at Cassian Belt 8 years ago. "I know." She looked at me. "You know, I've been tracking their salvage collection for 2 weeks. Continue." She highlighted another ship. "This one has Dren weapon arrays mounted on a Vorath collective frame. The power distribution system is Pantheon. The navigational computer is, I don't even know what species designed that. Ship after ship, each one a chimera. Pieces from 7 different civilizations, none of them human, all of them supposedly incompatible. They're not just collecting salvage," Vesh said quietly. "They're integrating it. They're making ships that shouldn't exist." I studied the scans. The technical challenges alone should have been insurmountable. Every species builds their technology on different fundamental assumptions, different power systems, different computer architectures, different physical interfaces. Making a Serenthi drive work with Cath armor wasn't just difficult, it was supposed to be impossible. "Did you get close enough to see how they're solving the integration problems?" Vesh pulled up detailed imagery. There's a small black box mounted in each ship's central control system, about the size of a human fist. I couldn't scan it without alerting their sensors, but what? "Father, I've studied alien technology integration for 12 years. That box is doing something I've never seen before. It's translating between incompatible systems in real time." I looked at the images. 11 impossible ships, built in 3 weeks by a species that had been in space for 60 years, built from our garbage. "They tried to contact us, you know," Vesh said quietly, "after Vren destroyed their diplomatic shuttle. They sent 7 more messages, different frequencies, different languages, all of them saying the same thing: we want to talk." "Did we respond?" Vren deleted them. I closed my eyes. "Father, what are we doing here?" It was a good question, the kind of question that has more than one answer. "We're testing weapon systems," I said. "Are we?" I opened my eyes, looked at my daughter, 34 years old, smart enough to know when her father was lying. "No," I said, "we're watching, and I need you to do something that will probably get us both court-martialed." One night, I pulled up the technical specifications for Cath armor mounting systems. Standard issue, the kind of document that's supposed to be classified. "When you return tomorrow for your next reconnaissance run, I need you to accidentally drop this data package during your retreat. Make it look like an equipment malfunction. Debris scatter. Humans are very good at collecting debris." Vesh stared at me. "You want me to give them our technical manuals? I want to see what they do with them." "Oh, that's treason. That's curiosity." She stood there for a long moment. Then she picked up the data chip I'd prepared. "You've changed," she said, "in the past 3 weeks. You're not planning to attack them, are you?" "I'm planning to test them." "There's a difference," was saying. "What kind of test?" I looked at the scans of the 11 impossible ships. Thought about Trell Varys's message. About Nadia Cortez surviving because I'd leaked our patrol schedule. About 8 billion humans who'd been collecting garbage for 40 years and who'd somehow turned that garbage into something that made my intelligence officer use the word impossible. The kind of test, I said, that tells me whether the galaxy needs what they're building. Vesh left. I sat alone and did something I hadn't done in 40 years. I questioned whether destroying my target was the right move. Day 23. 400 hours I was awake. Cath sleep less than humans when the alert came through. Human activity spike at Titan facility. Energy signatures consistent with breakthrough event. I pulled up the feeds, watched a team of human engineers working on Ship 7. They'd been struggling with the Cath armor integration for 6 days. The mounting points were incompatible. The stress distribution was wrong. Every solution created 3 new problems. Then 12 hours after Vesh accidentally dropped our technical manual, I watched them solve it. One engineer, young man, maybe 35, covered in what humans call grease, was directing the operation. Ash Cade. My intelligence files said he was a plasma systems specialist. Reputation for taking risks. Reputation for testing equipment at dangerous levels. I watched him implement our mounting solution. But he didn't just copy it, he modified it. Adapted it for the hybrid hull design they were using. It took him 6 hours. 6 hours to do what should have taken a team of Cath engineers 6 months. Not because he was smarter than Cath engineers, because he didn't know it was supposed to be impossible. Ignorance as innovation. I watched Ship 7 through 11 accelerate toward completion. Watched the human teams move with the kind of focused intensity that only comes from desperation mixed with hope. Watched Nadia Cortez stand in Bay 12 with her arms crossed, looking at something her species had no business being able to build and smile. Not a smile of triumph, a smile of possibility. I turned off the feed, sat in the dark of my quarters, thought about Trell's message, about my 40 years commanding the closing jaw, about 17 civilizations that had calculated the odds, followed standard military doctrine, and died anyway. Thought about what it meant that I just actively helped the people I was supposed to destroy. I wasn't watching anymore. I was teaching, and I had no idea what that made me. Vren found out on day 25, not about the technical manual. I'd covered that trail well enough, but he'd started noticing the delays, the extended reconnaissance schedules. The fact that we'd been positioned at the edge of the solar system for nearly 4 weeks and hadn't done anything except send probes that got destroyed. He came to my quarters, didn't bother requesting entry, just walked in with the kind of confidence that people have when they think they've caught you in a mistake. Commander, I'm formally requesting clarification on our engagement timeline. I was reviewing scan data, didn't look up. Clarification noted, request denied. Sir, with respect, we've been in position for 25 days. Our mission parameters specified. I'm aware of our mission parameters, I wrote them. Then you're aware that we're exceeding timeline by 3 weeks. The crew is confused. Some are questioning my command. I looked up. Say what you mean, Vren. He stood straighter. I invoke field challenge. I set down my data pad. Field challenge. Ancient Cath tradition. Any officer could challenge their commander for fleet control if they believed the commander was compromised, incompetent, or acting against the species' interest. The challenge was settled through personal combat. Winner took command. Loser was usually too dead to care. You're challenging me for command of the fleet. You've been compromised, Commander. I don't know how or why, but your delays have allowed the humans to fortify their position. Every day we wait, they grow stronger. I'm acting in the fleet's best interest. I stood up. Cath commanders are supposed to be physically imposing. I'm 68 years old. I've got scars from 4 decades of combat. I've killed more people than Vren has met. But he was 43, prime of life, trained in the new combat styles. The smart move would have been to refuse, declare him unfit, relieve him of duty. Instead, I said, accepted. Combat deck, 1 hour. He left. I sat back down and realized I'd just done something spectacularly stupid, but also necessary. Because if I was going to protect Earth, and I'd apparently decided that's what I was doing, I needed to do it from a position of unquestioned authority, which meant I needed to beat Vren unconscious in front of the entire officer corps. At 68 years old, against a man in his prime, I poured myself a drink. This was going to hurt. The combat lasted 4 minutes and 33 seconds. Vren was faster, stronger, better trained in modern techniques. I was older, sneakier, And I'd spent 40 years learning that the most dangerous thing you can be is underestimated. He came at me like he was fighting someone his own age. Fast strikes, overwhelming force. The kind of assault that works beautifully in training simulations. I fought like I was protecting something. Because I was. I won't describe the details. Combat is either boring or traumatic depending on whether you're watching or participating. What matters is that after 4 minutes, Vren was on the deck bleeding from wounds that would heal, but would definitely hurt, and I was standing over him with my own blood mixing with his. "You fight," he gasped, "like you're protecting something." "I am," I said, my curiosity. I didn't kill him. Field challenge allowed it, but I'd seen enough death. I demoted him instead. Reassigned him to waste management, the kind of humiliation that would keep him quiet and bitter for the rest of the campaign. I walked off the combat deck. Vesh was waiting outside. "Father, you're bleeding." "I'm old. It happens." "Why did you accept the challenge?" "You could have just because I needed everyone to see that I'm still capable of command. And because Vren needed to understand that delays aren't weakness, they're strategy." She helped me to medical. The ship's doctor, a young Cath named Threx, who'd probably never seen real combat, looked at my injuries with wide eyes. "Commander, these wounds will heal. Treat them." He treated them. I returned to my quarters and pulled up the latest scans from Titan. 19 ships now, not 11. 19. In 25 days, they'd gone from 0 to 19 hybrid warships. And according to Vesh's latest intelligence, they were testing something called Pattern Omega, a formation maneuver that didn't match anything in our tactical databases. I smiled, then I winced because smiling pulled at the cuts on my face. Worth it, day 28. The message came through on the same encrypted channel Trell had used 2 weeks earlier, but this wasn't from Trell. "Commander Theron, this is Daravel, Vorath Coordinator, Assembly Member Relations Division. We need to talk." I'd heard of Daravel. Everyone in the fleet command structure had. She was the kind of bureaucrat who could end your career with a single report, or save it with careful wording. I sent back, "Talking requires mutual benefit. State yours." Her response came 18 minutes later. 11 Assembly member worlds have submitted inquiries about Earth's reclamation operations. They want to hire human engineering teams, before you've even engaged them, before they've proven their designs in combat. I read that twice. "Your point." "My point, Commander, is that you've been delaying engagement for 4 weeks. My point is that every day you delay, humans complete more ships. My point is that certain individuals in the Assembly believe you've been influenced." Influenced by what? By the possibility that destroying Earth's fleet would eliminate a valuable galactic resource before we've properly assessed it. I sat very still. "Are you ordering me to withdraw?" "I'm offering you a deal. Withdraw peacefully. Cite insufficient strategic value. In exchange, the Assembly fast-tracks your requested upgrades to Cath border defenses. The ones you've been requesting for 8 years. It was a bribe, an elegant one, the kind that comes wrapped in legitimate strategic concerns. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. "No." "Commander, we engage as planned. If I withdraw now, humans are untested. The galaxy will think they're lucky, not capable. They need to prove themselves, and I need to see how they prove themselves. You're risking a war to grade them. I'm risking a war to make sure that when they survive, and I believe they will, nobody questions whether they deserve to." Long silence. "Trell chose well," Daravel finally said. "He told me you'd refuse." "Trell talks too much." "Trell talks exactly enough. The offer remains open, Commander. If you change your mind." The channel closed. I sat in my quarters and realized I'd just refused a direct bribe from one of the most powerful bureaucrats in the galaxy. Because I wanted to see what Earth would do. Because I'd apparently stopped being a warrior and become something else. A teacher, maybe. Or just a very old fool who'd forgotten that curiosity killed more than just cats. The next 2 weeks blurred together. I watched 19 human ships complete construction. Watched them run integration tests that should have failed but didn't. Watched them train crews on alien systems in a time frame that would have affected my own people months. Watched Silas Oren, 26 years old civilian software engineer, build a translation protocol that made 3 incompatible technologies communicate in real time with 0.3-second latency. Watched Maravek's 40 years old former deep space mining rig operator with 15 years of experience turn mining equipment into a defense grid that could track and destroy targets moving at evasive speeds. Watched Ashcade redesign plasma conduits to handle 4 times their rated capacity and then stand next to them during pressure tests while everyone else evacuated. Watched Nadia Cortez coordinate 1,400 engineers across 11 deep space facilities with the kind of calm competence that only comes from people who've survived their own failures and learned from them. Watched Commander Tobias Wren, 45 years old Earth's military commander, move between technical briefings and strategic planning with the focused intensity of someone who knew exactly how badly outmatched he was and had decided that math was negotiable. And I watched myself interfere. Day 30 jammed a sabotage signal from an assembly faction that wanted humans to fail. Made it look like Cath probe interference. The humans detected the malware anyway, purged it in 18 hours, and hardened their systems against future attacks. Day 35 refused Daravel's second bribe offer, doubled down on engagement timeline. Day 37 intercepted Vren's attempt to arm a stealth torpedo aimed at Titan facility. Used command override codes to redirect it, detonated it in empty space. Had Vren arrested and executed for mutiny. First time in 40 years I'd executed one of my own officers. Last time I'd tolerate sabotage from inside my own fleet. Day 40 watched the 19th ship complete final integration tests. Watched Tobias Wren order all 19 ships to launch positions. Watched them move into formation at the designated meeting point, the place I'd calculated they'd choose because it was geometrically optimal for their defensive posture. Watched them wait for us, and I realized they weren't afraid. Desperate, yes. Outmatched, absolutely. But not afraid. 19 ships built from garbage. Crews trained in 3 weeks. Technology that shouldn't work. Tactics that didn't exist in any database. Against 47 Cath warships with 200 years of unbroken tactical doctrine. I opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, advance to engagement position. Closing jaw formation, standard approach. Vesh looked at me from her station. Father, are you sure? I looked at the tactical display. 47 green icons representing my fleet. 19 red icons representing impossible ships built by desperate humans who'd turned the galaxy's garbage into weapons. No, I said, but I need to know what happens next. We moved. They waited. And somewhere in the space between those two facts, I stopped being certain about what I was, what I'd been, or what I was about to become. The test was beginning, and I had no idea who was testing whom. Day 40, 6 hours before engagement. I hadn't slept in 38 hours. Cath can function longer than humans without rest, but even we have limits. My limits were somewhere behind me, lost in the blur of tactical assessments and moral calculations that had consumed the past 2 weeks. Vesh found me in the observation deck, alone, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath us, blue and white and green, fragile. 8 billion lives spinning through space on a planet that didn't know yet whether it would see tomorrow. Father, the fleet is asking for final briefing. Tell them 2 hours. They need to prepare. 2 hours. She stood beside me, didn't leave. We watched Earth together in silence. Do you remember, she said quietly, when I was 7? You took me to the Memorial Gardens, showed me the monuments to the 17. I remembered 17 crystalline spires, one for each civilization the Cath had defeated, beautiful, solemn, educational. You told me that each monument represented a choice, that the Cath had offered terms, that they'd refused, that what followed was mathematics, not malice. I remember. Were you lying? I looked at my daughter, 34 years old, intelligence officer, old enough to understand that history is written by the people who survived to write it. No, I was telling the truth as I understood it. The Cath offered terms. They refused. We destroyed them. And Earth never got the offer. Vren made sure of that. So we're already past the point where mathematics applies. I turned back to the viewport. Earth hung there, oblivious and determined. 19 ships waited at the meeting point. 47 ships waited for my order to advance. Mathematics stopped applying the moment I started interfering, as I said. Everything since then has been something else. What? I don't know yet. Ask me again in 6 hours. Day 30, 10 days earlier. The sabotage signal came through at 03:47 hours. Tight beam transmission. Assembly encryption. Aimed directly at the human fleet's communication network. I intercepted it 3 milliseconds before it reached its target. My communications officer looked confused. Sir, that's an assembly frequency. Secure channel? We shouldn't be able to. I've had monitoring protocols on all assembly channels for 2 weeks. Analyze the signal. It took him 40 minutes. When he returned to the bridge, his skin had gone pale blue, worried. Commander, it's malware. specifically designed to target the translation protocol the humans are using. If it had reached their systems, it would have created a cascade failure during their first combat activation. Casualties. Catastrophic. The protocol is integrated into every ship's core systems. Failure would mean simultaneous loss of power weapons navigation across the entire fleet. I sat very still. Source: Assembly Subnet. But, sir, this isn't from Coordinator Trell or Coordinator Daravel. This is from the Military Procurement Division. Of course it was. Someone in the assembly stood to profit from Earth's failure. Probably the same contractors who'd been selling outdated weapon systems to the assembly for the past century. The same contractors who'd lose billions if Earth demonstrated that salvaged technology could outperform new construction. The same contractors who'd see 19 human ships as an existential threat to their business model. I made a decision in approximately 6 seconds. Reroute the signal. Make it look like it's coming from that Cath probe debris field near Titan, the one from our reconnaissance sweep 2 weeks ago. Sir, do it, and jam any additional signals from that assembly subnet. Make the jamming look like natural interference from solar activity. He did it. I watched the sabotage signal redirect. Watched it originate from wreckage that humans would naturally suspect. Watched them detect it 17 hours later. Watched them trace it to what they thought it was Cath probe interference. Watched them purge the malware in 18 hours. 18 hours of coordinated effort across 19 ships and 11 facilities. Watch them harden their systems, implement new security protocols, emerge stronger. Better they blame me than discover the assembly was trying to kill them. Better they focus their anger on a visible enemy than waste energy fighting invisible treachery. I saved them. They hated me for it. Good. Day 35. The second offer. Daravel didn't bother with encrypted channels this time. She arrived in person. Vorath diplomatic vessel. Sleek, official, the kind of ship that arrives when someone wants to make a point. She requested audience aboard the Vecthar. I granted it. We met in the diplomatic reception chamber. Neutral ground. She brought 2 aides. I brought Vesh. Daravel was smaller than I expected. Vorath usually are. Compact, efficient. Her 4 eyes tracked everything simultaneously. Her skin displayed the silver-gray pattern that indicated high-level diplomatic mode. Commander Theron, thank you for seeing me. You came a long way for conversation. Say what you came to say. Direct, I appreciate that. She settled into a chair designed for species with different skeletal structures. Made it look comfortable anyway. 11 assembly worlds have submitted formal contract requests for human engineering services. The number grows daily. You told me this 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, it was 11 worlds. Today, it's 17. By next week, it will be 23. Commander Earth hasn't even survived yet, and the galaxy is already bidding for their services. Your point, my point is that you can end this, right now. File a report stating Earth represents minimal strategic value. Withdraw your fleet. The Assembly provides you with the border defense upgrades you've requested for 8 years. Everyone walks away. I looked at Vesh. She kept her expression neutral. Professional. I looked back at Daravel. No, Ush. Commander. I said no 2 weeks ago. My position hasn't changed. If anything, it's strengthened. Why? It was a good question. Simple. Direct. Deserving of an honest answer. Because if I withdraw now, Earth becomes a curiosity. An interesting footnote. The species that collected garbage and got lucky when the scary aliens decided they weren't worth destroying. I stood, walked to the viewport. The Vecthar's diplomatic chamber had a clear view of local space. I could see Titan facility in the distance. Could see the faint drive signatures of human ships conducting formation drills. But if I engage them, I continued, if I position the full weight of the closing jaw against 19 salvage ships, and if they survive not through luck but through competence, then Earth becomes something else entirely. What? Proven, validated, undeniable. Daravel was quiet for a moment. Then you're betting your career on them. I'm betting the galaxy's future on them. My career is irrelevant. The Assembly won't see it that way if you lose. You know, the Assembly hasn't seen anything clearly in 200 years. That's why Trell chose me. That's why you're here. Because everyone knows the galaxy needs something different, but nobody wants to risk being the one who breaks protocol to get it. Except you. Except me. She stood, smoothed her formal robes. The offer remains open, Commander, until the moment you engage. It'll remain open after that, too. Because you need me to do this. You need someone with enough authority to make Earth's survival meaningful. Someone whose reputation makes their validation matter. She smiled, small, tight. Trell said you'd figured it out. Figured what out? That this isn't about Earth. It's about changing the Assembly's calculation of value. It's about proving that innovation matters more than resources, that potential matters more than power. She left with her aides. Vesh waited until the Vorath ship had departed. Father, what if you're wrong? What if they're not ready? I returned to the viewport, watched Titan facility, watched the ships. Then I've made the biggest mistake of my career. And 40 years of victories won't matter because I'll be remembered for the one time I bet on the wrong species. And if you're right, then maybe the galaxy gets the disruption it deserves. Day 37, dawn cycle. The alert woke me from the first real sleep I'd had in days. Commander to the bridge. Priority 1. I arrived in 2 minutes. Vesh was already there. She looked worried. Show me. She pulled up the tactical display. Father, I've been monitoring human training exercises. They've been testing a formation maneuver for 3 days. They call it Pattern Omega. And it shouldn't be possible. She ran the simulation. I watched 19 ships execute a coordinated position shift that transformed their formation from a defensive cluster into what looked like, I didn't have a word for it. What am I seeing? An envelopment sphere, perfect geometric coverage, every attack vector covered, every defensive angle optimized. But Father, they're doing it in 73 seconds. That's fast. That's impossible. We can execute formation shifts in approximately 4 minutes with decades of practice. They've been training for 3 weeks. I watched the simulation again. Looked for mistakes. Found none. How? I don't know. Their ships have different capabilities. Different speeds, different weapon ranges, different defensive strengths. Pattern Omega accounts for all of it. Positions each ship exactly where its unique capabilities matter most. That's not doctrine, that's adaptive strategy, real-time optimization. Father, they're not following rules, they're rewriting them. I sat in my command chair, thought about 17 civilizations that had fought using standard doctrine, standard formations, standard assumptions about how warfare worked, thought about how all 17 had lost. Not because they were weak, because they were predictable. Pull up our standard approach formation, the closing jaws staging position. She did. I overlaid it with the Pattern Omega simulation, watched where the human ships would end up if we approached using our traditional positioning. Watch the perfect coverage, the complete envelopment, the mathematical certainty that if we followed our own 200-year-old doctrine, we'd be walking into a formation that turned our numerical advantage into a tactical nightmare. They studied us, I said quietly. Sir, they studied us. They knew exactly where we'd position because we always position there. 200 years of tactical data, all of it predictable, all of it exploitable. I started laughing. Vesh looked alarmed. Father, they weaponized our own predictability. They turned doctrine into a weakness. Should we change our approach, Vector? I stopped laughing, thought about it. No. Father, no, we approach standard. We use the closing jaw exactly as we always have. But I know what they'll do. I want to see if they actually do it. I want to see if they have the courage to execute that maneuver when 47 real warships are bearing down on them. Because execution under pressure is what separates training from warfare. Vesh looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had, or maybe I just found something more valuable than victory, the certainty that I was about to witness something that had never happened before in galactic military history. Day 40, final briefing, 2 hours before engagement. I stood before my senior staff, 23 officers, veterans of campaigns across the sector, people who'd followed me for decades. I told them the truth, not all of it, but enough. Earth has constructed 19 warships from salvage technology. Intelligence indicates they've integrated systems from 7 different species, systems that, according to every technical assessment, should be incompatible. I pulled up the tactical displays. Let them see. They've weaponized mining equipment into precision defense systems. They've created a translation protocol that allows real-time communication between incompatible technologies. They've developed formation tactics that don't exist in any database. Murmuring uncertainty, one of the younger officers raised a hand. Commander, are they dangerous unknown? That's what we're about to determine. And if they are, I looked at him, young, maybe 50 years old, Still believed war was about clear victories and clean mathematics. If they're dangerous, we adapt. If they're not, we proceed. Either way, we engage professionally. We offer no quarter, but we also offer no unnecessary destruction. This is a test for them, for us, for the galaxy's assumptions about what matters. What if they surprise us? It was the right question. Then we learn, and learning is never a waste. I dismissed them. Vesh stayed behind. Father, one more thing. Yes, I've been monitoring human communications. They don't know we're coming today. What? Commander Rin positioned his fleet 3 days ago. They're waiting. But they don't know we're advancing today. They think they have more time. I absorbed that. We could catch them partially prepared. Crews still training, systems still being tested. It would be the tactically optimal moment to strike. When did they last run Pattern Omega? 17 hours ago. Full execution, perfect coordination. And since then, standard patrol patterns, defensive positioning, no indication they expect immediate engagement. I walked to the viewport, looked at the distant sparkle of light that was Titan facility, thought about Trell's message, about Daravel's offer, about 40 days of interference and protection and active sabotage of my own mission. Thought about what kind of test had meaning. Send them a message, tight beam, Cath diplomatic frequency. Sir, tell them we're coming, give them 4 hours to prepare. Father, that's an advantage. Yes, it's also fair. I'm not interested in defeating them when they're not ready. I'm interested in seeing what they do when they are ready. She left to send the message. I stood alone, wondered when I'd stop being a conqueror and become, what, a teacher, a judge, a fool who'd forgotten that the galaxy didn't reward curiosity, it rewarded victory. Maybe all three. 3 hours, 47 minutes later, the fleet advanced. 47 ships in perfect closing jaw formation. 200 years of tactical refinement. Unstoppable. Inevitable. Beautiful in its geometric precision. I stood on the bridge of the Vecthar and watched the tactical display update. The human fleet was moving. 19 ships breaking from defensive positions, accelerating toward the meeting point. No hesitation. No retreat. They received our message, Vesh reported. Response. One word acknowledged. I smiled despite myself. No plea for mercy, no request for negotiation, no attempt to buy more time, just acknowledged. Time to engagement range. 47 minutes at current velocity. All ships, standard approach, no deviation, no surprises. We execute this by the book. The fleet moved like a single organism. 47 ships breathing together, thinking together. 200 years of shared history moving through space toward 19 impossible ships that shouldn't exist. I watched them grow larger on the display, watched them shift into formation. Not defensive, not aggressive, waiting. They're not moving to intercept, Vesh noted. No, they're letting us come to them, choosing the battlefield. Is that wise, for them or for us? She didn't answer. 10 minutes to engagement range. The human fleet remained motionless. 19 ships holding position. Waiting. I thought about Commander Tobias Rin, 45 years old, career military. Probably hadn't slept in days, probably terrified, probably certain he was about to die. Probably right, but standing there anyway. 5 minutes. I opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, combat stations, weapon systems hot, shields to maximum. Standard engagement protocols. We treat them as we would any opponent with respect, precision, and overwhelming force. Acknowledgements rippled back. Father, Vesh's voice was quiet. Last chance to change course. I know. We could still. I know. I looked at the tactical display. 47 green icons, 19 red icons. The space between them shrinking. Thought about Trell's gamble, about Daravel's bribe, about the 17 civilizations that had stood where Earth stood now, about the fact that I'd spent 40 days actively helping the people I was about to engage, about what that made me. 2 minutes. I straightened my uniform, ran through final systems checks, verified weapon readiness, did everything a commander does before battle. 1 minute. The human ships remained still, waiting. 30 seconds. I took a breath. Open a channel, standard Cath diplomatic frequency. Let's see if they answer. Vesh opened the channel. I spoke into the void between fleets. Commander Ryan, this is Commander Krall Therens of the Cath Expeditionary Fleet. You are in contested space. Your fleet composition suggests military intent. Explain your presence. The response came back in 7 seconds. Tobias Rin's voice, calm, steady, human vocal patterns that the translator rendered as flat and even. Commander Theron. This is Commander Tobias Rin of Earth's first reclamation fleet. We are defending our sovereign space. Your presence constitutes a threat. Withdraw or face engagement. I looked at Vesh. She looked back. The space between fleets had shrunk to nothing. We were here. The test was beginning, and I had no idea how it would end. Commander Ryan, I said slowly, you have salvage. We have history. Mathematics is not in your favor. His response came back faster this time. Would you like to be the first to give us that history? I sat very still. Then I started laughing. Not mocking, not cruel. Genuine laughter. The kind that comes from encountering something unexpected and perfect. Vesh stared at me. The bridge crew stared at me. Somewhere on a human ship, Tobias Rin probably thought I'd lost my mind. But I couldn't stop laughing. Because he just said exactly what I'd hoped he'd say. Defiant, confident, ready. I wiped my eyes, composed myself. Opened the channel again. Commander Rin, show me what you've built. Show me what Earth can do when the galaxy says you can't. I closed the channel, looked at my crew. All ships, hold position. Let's see what they do. Vesh leaned close. Father, what are you doing? I smiled. What I should have done 40 days ago. I'm watching, openly, honestly, without pretense. And if they attack, then we defend, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to show us something that's never been seen before. What? I looked at the tactical display. 19 ships, waiting, ready. The future, I said, and I meant it. All ships, Tobias Rin's voice came through the channel, calm, measured, the kind of calm that comes from accepting death and deciding to make it count. Execute pattern Omega. I watched it happen. 73 seconds that rewrote 200 years of tactical doctrine. The human fleet moved like a living thing. Not coordinated, that's too simple a word. Coordinated suggests parts moving together. This was different. This was parts moving in relation to each other, aware of each other, compensating for each other in real time. Ship 1, built from a Serenthi carrier hull, fast maneuverable, broke high and right, swept in a wide arc that brought it behind my left flank. Ships 3 and 7, Cath armor heavy slow shifted to frontal positions, became walls, became shields for the lighter ships maneuvering behind them. Ships 11 through 15, Dren weapon systems, precision targeting, spread into a crescent formation. Each one positioned to cover firing lanes that overlapped with perfect geometric efficiency. And the formation kept shifting, kept adapting. Real-time adjustments as my own fleet micro-corrected its positioning. I tested them, moved 3 ships left, watched the human formation instantly compensate, moved 5 ships forward, watched the sphere tighten, contract, maintain perfect coverage. Vesh, analysis. Her voice was quiet, awed. Father, they're not following a pattern, they're creating one. In real time, every adjustment we make, they counter. Every gap we try to exploit, they close. Firing solutions. We have them, multiple targets, but Father, she pulled up the simulation, showed me what would happen if we fired. If we engaged, we'd be shooting through the human formation at each other. Every torpedo we launched would have to navigate a sphere of 19 ships that had positioned themselves to ensure maximum disruption to our firing lanes. We could win. The mathematics still favored us, but the casualties would be catastrophic. 60% on both sides, maybe more. They're not trying to defeat us, I said slowly. They're trying to make victory cost more than it's worth. Is that a strategy? It's the only strategy that works when you're outnumbered 3-1. The formation completed, 19 ships holding perfect position, perfect coverage, perfect geometric precision that shouldn't have been possible with mismatched designs and 3 weeks of training. My tactical display showed it clearly. The closing jaw had been countered. Not defeated, countered, by ships built from our own garbage. Commander Theron, Tobias Rin's voice again, we're ready when you are. I sat very still, looked at the tactical display, looked at 47 green icons surrounding 19 red icons, looked at 200 years of unbroken victories about to intersect with 40 days of impossible engineering. Opened the fleet channel. All ships, hold position, maintain current formation, no weapons activation. Silence on the bridge. Sir, Vesh spoke carefully. Orders, I'm thinking. About what? About everything. About 17 civilizations that had stood where Earth stood now. about how they'd all calculated the odds and decided surrender or suicide were their only options, about how none of them had ever done what Earth just did, about Trell's message, about Daravel's bribe, about 40 days of interference and protection and secret rebellion against my own mission, about what it meant that I'd spent those 40 days teaching my enemies how to survive, about what kind of warrior that made me. Maintain position, I said again. I need to think. The silence lasted 11 minutes. I know, because Vesh timed it. Told me later. 11 minutes of 47 Cath warships in 19 human ships holding position. Not moving, not firing, just waiting. 11 minutes of the entire bridge crew watching me sit motionless in my command chair. 11 minutes of me running simulations in my head. Not tactical simulations. Those were clear enough. We could win. It would cost, but we could win. Different simulations. What happens if we win? We destroy 19 ships, kill approximately 1,200 human crew members, eliminate Earth's only defense fleet. The assembly logs it as successful weapons test on defensive target. I get commendations, promotions. My name added to the roster of successful campaigns, and the galaxy learns nothing. 17 assembly worlds that wanted to hire human engineers will quietly withdraw their inquiries. The salvage operation at Titan will shut down. The innovation will stop. The galaxy will continue operating exactly as it has for 200-years-old species with old technology, fighting old wars. What happens if we lose? We engage. We suffer 60% casualties. If we're unlucky, we lose. The Cath Empire suffers its first major defeat in 2 centuries. My career ends in disgrace. Vren's faction, the Zealots who believe in victory at any cost, gains power. The Cath become more aggressive, not less. The galaxy destabilizes. And Earth becomes a target for every species that fears what 19 salvage ships just accomplished. What happens if we do neither? If we withdraw? If we acknowledge that Earth has proven itself without destroying them? If we make it clear that the closing jaw opened not because we were defeated, but because we chose recognition over annihilation? The galaxy notices. 17 civilizations that fell to the closing jaw never made it open. But Earth did, not through superior force, through superior adaptation, through seeing potential where everyone else saw waste, through innovation where everyone else saw impossibility, through courage where everyone else saw mathematics. I opened my eyes, looked at Vesh. Pull up the casualty projections again. Worst case scenario. She did. 68% casualties, both sides, if everything went wrong. In best case, 47% if we execute perfectly and they make mistakes, which they won't. No, Father, they won't. I looked at the numbers, thought about Commander Tobias Ryan, 45 years old, career military, probably married, probably had children, definitely had 1,200 crew members whose lives depended on his decisions. Thought about my own crew, veterans, professionals, people who'd followed me for decades, people who deserved a commander who made decisions based on reality, not pride. Thought about what reality actually was. Reality was that Earth had done something unprecedented. Reality was that destroying them would eliminate the first new strategic philosophy the galaxy had seen in 2 centuries. Reality was that I'd spent 40 days actively helping them survive because some part of me, the part that still questioned orders, still wondered if there were better ways, knew the galaxy needed what they represented. Reality was that I'd already made my choice. I just needed the courage to execute it. Open a channel. Cath diplomatic frequency. Tight beam to Earth Fleet Command. Sir, do it. Vesh opened the channel. I spoke slowly, carefully, every word chosen with precision. Commander Ryan, this is Commander Kral Theron. I have reviewed your fleet composition. I have analyzed your tactical positioning. I have assessed your capabilities. I paused. Let that sit. The Cath we acknowledge that you have constructed something we do not fully understand. Yet, another pause. You have taken what 7 civilizations discarded. You have integrated technologies that should be incompatible. You have created tactical doctrine that exists in no database. You have done this in 40 days. I could feel my bridge crew staring at me. We came here to test weapons. You have tested something more valuable, the proposition that innovation matters more than tradition, that adaptation matters more than doctrine, that seeing potential in waste matters more than calculating value and resources. I took a breath. Commander Ryan, the Cath Expeditionary Fleet is repositioning. We acknowledge your defensive capability. We acknowledge your right to sovereign space. We acknowledge that you have earned recognition, not destruction. Silence. From the human fleet, from my own crew, from the space between 47 ships and 19 ships. Then Tobias Rin's voice, different now, uncertain. Commander Theron, are you withdrawing? We are repositioning to non-engagement distance, yes. Why, boy, it was a fair question, because you fought as the Cath would fight, with what you had not what you wished you had, with innovation, not imitation, with courage, not calculation. That deserves recognition, not annihilation. I don't understand. You will. When other species come, and they will come, Commander, you'll understand why it matters that we withdrew. Why it matters that the closing jaw chose not to close. I closed the channel, turned to my crew. All ships, disengage formation, withdraw to position Delta 7, standard reposition velocity, no aggressive posturing. We leave as professionals, not as a defeated force. My tactical officer veteran of 30 years stood frozen. Sir, we're withdrawing. We're acknowledging reality. There's a difference. Execute orders. The closing jaw opened. 47 ships breaking formation, reversing course, reorganizing into withdrawal pattern. It took 17 minutes of precise maneuvering, 17 minutes of professional execution, 17 minutes of 200 years of tactical tradition bending without breaking. The human fleet didn't move. They watched us leave. Vesh stood beside my command chair. Father, the crew is confused. I know. They're asking questions about honor, about mission failure, about, let them ask, I'll address them once we're clear. We reached position Delta 7, standard non-engagement distance, far enough that we represented no immediate threat, close enough that we could return if circumstances changed. I opened the fleet-wide channel. All personnel, this is Commander Theron. I know you have questions. I will answer them. I stood, straightened my uniform. We came to test weapons. We accomplished that objective. Our new plasma torpedo system has been validated against defensive targets. Mission parameters achieved. Pause. But we also accomplished something more valuable. We identified a strategic capability that the galaxy has not previously encountered. Earth's reclamation and integration methodology represents a novel approach to ship construction. Their adaptive tactical doctrine represents a novel approach to warfare. Another pause. Destroying them would have validated our weapons. Withdrawing from them validates their capability. And validation is more valuable than victory when it changes how the galaxy calculates value. Silence across the fleet. I am filing this engagement as tactical withdrawal, uncontested space. Earth represents minimal strategic value for resource acquisition. They do represent significant value for technological assessment. The assembly will be notified. I closed the channel. Vesh looked at me. You're lying in the official report. Yes. Why, quite? Because if I report that they outmaneuvered us, every species in the galaxy will study their tactics. If I report that they're minimal strategic value, they'll be dismissed as lucky until they're strong enough to handle the attention. You're protecting them. I'm protecting the investment I made. 40 days of interference, 7 active interventions, 1 court-martial-worthy act of treason by helping them with technical manuals. I want to see what they do with the time I just bought them. She smiled slightly. You've changed. I've learned there's a difference. I opened a private channel, tight beam, encrypted, direct to Tobias Rin's flagship. Commander Ryan, private channel, just us. His voice came back cautious. I'm here. You'll have visitors now, assembly coordinators, contractors, scavengers looking for advantage. Be careful which offers you accept. Was this a test? Yes, you passed. Now comes the harder test success. Don't lose what made you dangerous when you become comfortable. Don't lose your ability to see potential in waste when you have resources. Don't lose your innovation when you have tradition. Pause. Commander Theron, did you help us? During the past 40 days? I smiled. Alone in my quarters now. Crew dismissed. Fleet secured. I delayed my attack by 37 days. I leaked intelligence that saved your chief engineer from assassination. I jammed sabotage signals from assembly's contractors. I had my daughter drop technical manuals during reconnaissance. I redirected a stealth torpedo that would have killed 1,400 of your engineers. I refused 2 separate bribes from assembly coordinators. I executed my own second-in-command for attempting to sabotage your facility. Silence. Then why? Because in 200 years of warfare, I'd forgotten what it felt like to be surprised. You reminded me, and I wanted to see what else you could do if given the chance. I don't know what to say. Say you'll remember when you're strong, when you're successful, when other species come to you desperate and afraid. Remember that someone gave you a chance. Pass it forward. I closed the channel, sat in the dark, wondered what I'd just done, wondered if it was treason or wisdom, wondered if there was a difference. 6 months later, the neutral station orbited a star with no name, no planets, no strategic value. The kind of place where people met when they didn't want to be noticed. I arrived alone, no fleet, no aides, just me and a small Cath courier ship. Trelvaris was waiting. He looked older than I remembered. 140 years will do that even to a Serenthi, but his eyes were sharp, calculating. We sat in a private room, no recording devices, no witnesses. Commander Theron, thank you for coming. You said it was important. It is. He poured drinks, Serenthi tea, bitter, complex. I've read your report. Tactical withdrawal, uncontested space. Very diplomatic. It's accurate. It's fiction, but useful fiction. He sipped his tea. Earth has contracted with 17 assembly worlds now. 23 more have submitted inquiries. Their salvage reclamation methodology is being studied by every species with a shipyard. Good. The assembly is calling it the Earth model. Resource recovery and adaptive integration. It's changing procurement policies across the sector. Better. Trell set down his cup. You did something unprecedented, Commander. The closing jaw opened. First time in 200 years. I made a tactical decision based on battlefield realities. You made a moral decision based on philosophical calculations. Don't insult me with military jargon. I looked at him, old, wise, manipulative, friend. You orchestrated this entire scenario. 47 years of planning. You picked Earth. You picked the timing. You picked me. Yes. Why Poimo? Because the galaxy is stagnant, Crawl. We fight the same wars, build the same ships, follow the same doctrine. For 200 years, nothing has changed. Nothing has evolved. We're calcifying. He stood, walked to the viewport. I needed disruption. I needed someone to prove that innovation matters, that seeing value in waste matters, that adaptation beats tradition. So you gambled 8 billion lives. I gambled that you would make the right choice when the moment came, and you did. What if I hadn't? He turned, looked at me with those sharp eyes. Then Earth would have died, and I would have tried again with another species, and another, until someone understood what I was trying to prove. I stood, walked to the viewport beside him. What were you trying to prove? That the galaxy doesn't need more warriors. It needs more teachers, more protectors, more people who know when to open the jaw instead of closing it. We stood in silence, watched the nameless star burn. 17 civilizations, I said quietly. I destroyed 17 civilizations. Everyone fought the same way. Everyone lost the same way. And Earth showed me what happens when you meet force with innovation, tradition with adaptation, predictability with creativity. And I spent 40 days protecting that, teaching that, enabling that. Myers Trell smiled. You've changed. I've evolved. There's a difference. I returned to the Vecthar alone, sat in my quarters, thought about 17 spires in the memorial gardens, 17 civilizations, 17 choices, thought about what the 18th monument would have looked like, thought about why there wouldn't be one. I pulled up the latest reports from Earth, 34 ships now, contracts with 8 worlds. Commander Tobias Wren promoted to Fleet Admiral. A new generation of human engineers learning to see value in what others discarded. Pattern Omega being taught to assembly tactical schools as adaptive formation doctrine. The Earth model being discussed in procurement committees across the galaxy. Innovation spreading like a virus. And I'd been the vector. I smiled, wrote in my personal log, the one that would never be official, the one that told the truth. I've destroyed 17 civilizations in my career. Built the Cath Empire through 200 years of conquest, followed doctrine, executed orders, won victories. Earth taught me something in 40 days that 200 years of war never did. The most dangerous weapon isn't the one that destroys. It's the one that creates. They called it scrap. We called it worthless. They called it opportunity. And that's why I withdrew. Not because they could beat us in battle. We would have won. The mathematics were clear. But because the galaxy needs builders more than it needs another warrior species, because innovation matters more than tradition, because seeing potential in waste matters more than calculating value in resources, because someone needed to be the first to open the closing jaw, to prove it could be done, to show that recognition matters more than annihilation. I paused, wrote the last lines carefully. 17 civilizations fell to my fleet. Each one fought using standard doctrine, standard assumptions, standard calculations about what matters. One civilization made the closing jaw open. They were right about one thing: it was scrap, until it wasn't, until someone saw what it could become, just like Earth itself, just like me. I closed the log, sat in the dark, smiled, and for the first time in 200 years, I felt like I'd won something that actually mattered. Not a battle, a future.